For nearly a generation, the Boeing 757 has overwhelmed the center of the market airspace. Yet legends reach a conclusion, and after many years being rulers of this area, it appears there could be a fresher, more skilled challenger for its spot around coast in the Airbus A321 XLR. To comprehend the reason why the XLR will supplant the Boeing 757, we want to begin from the starting. The Airbus A321 is an individual from the Airbus A320 group of short to medium range, slender body business traveler, twin motor stream carriers. The A321ES have been in dynamic help starting around 1994 and are at present of two kinds. The or current motor choice, which halted creation in 2021, and the neo or new motor choice, which has been in dynamic creation beginning around 2016. The two of which are single-aisled. The neo particularly stands out because of its more productive motor stretch fuselage and airframe enhancements, which implies they are capable to oblige north of 15% more weight or a little more than 20,000 additional pounds at departure and set aside to 15 more fuel. These equivalent motors from Pratt & Whitney can likewise be viewed as on the A321LR, which represents long reach, and XLR, which represents extra lengthy reach. These planes are basically a drawn-out form of the neo. Yet what makes these broadened forms so remarkable are their broadened motor tanks, which permits both planes to travel further. For example, the A321LR has 3 helper tanks, while the XLR is furnished with something virtuoso from Airbus called the back center tank RCT focus tank, or RCT. The RCT is a pivotal part of the XLR, and it's nothing unexpected. Why, at the point when we look nearer, that is on the grounds that RCT has the limit of 3 extra focus tanks or ACs, and the XLR has a choice for clients to add an extra forward tank to amplify its range. So when you add the RCT and forward tank in addition to the huge center wing tank that is fitted on the XLR, you get a strong plane that can travel an incredible 4,700 nautical miles, which for a solitary aisle fly is very noteworthy anyway. As indicated by Reuters, Airbus and European controllers agreed to change the RCT. These adjustments to RCT will add more weight to the plane, an entire 800 kilograms. This will diminish the scope of the XLR to 4,500, which is a piece lamentable for Airbus, yet these specs, and the way that it's fit for conveying 244 travelers in an all-economy arrangement, makes the XLR close to ideal for the center of the market range, which is still, for the most part, overwhelmed by Boeing 757. Anyway, the Boeing 757 hasn't been underway beginning around 2005, which implies they are maturing furthermore, are deprived to be supplanted by airplane that meet the advanced necessities for this specialty. And this is where the A321 XLR comes into place. The XLR is apparently very much positioned for this. Yet before we go further into this, we should first comprehend what precisely this center of the market is. Well, just put, a center of the market airplane, or mother, is the support between the supersized wide-body or two-fold-aisled airplanes, which could house up to 800 travelers, and the thin-body ones, which normally has under 200 travelers. They are generally classified by having 200 to 300 travelers, and flying medium corridor distances. They are likewise produced to be adequately strong to take off from somewhat short runways, with enough fuel to fly north of 4,500 miles, say between someplace like California, in the US and Munich in Germany, for instance, and the right blend of eco-friendliness and ability to make money on somewhat low-interest courses. So they are very essential to the avionics business. These mother airplanes are regularly utilized on courses where you could see as near 200 travelers who are planned on flying over distances near 4,000 miles, with as couple of stops as could really be expected. The center of the market airplane range has seen its interest shoot up in later years, contrasted with different sizes of airplane. With expanded request, there has been a not-so-quiet requirement for carriers to update their airplanes to meet the necessities of travelers. And surprisingly, however, the Boeing 757s are right now the most well-known in the specialty. Anyway, Boeing is dealing with a really difficult issue. You see, a large portion of their planes were fabricated no less than quite a while back, and a few carriers have started to either upgrade them for freight transport or stage them out in favor of fresher airplane. This presents a chance for Airbus A321 series, and perhaps more strangely, the forthcoming A321 XLR, to assume control over the center of the market. And it's obvious why when we check it out close up. However, the Airbus A321 XLR isn't set for wide discharge until 2024, and probably won't even go through an authority trip until 2025. A large portion of its particulars are out in people in general, so we can have a thought how it will work, and it's not looking great for Boeing. First of all, we want to talk about their eco-friendliness. Clearly, age has an influence here. However, most carriers try not to mind the age of an airplane as long as it's sufficiently effective to turn a respectable benefit. Anyway, the XLR essentially destroys the Boeing 757 with the eco-friendliness of its more up-to-date, further developed motors from Pratt & Whitney, which are from the exceptionally effective GTF series. As we said, these are similar motors that can be found on the A320neo and are said to lessen its fuel utilization by 16, that we can't say for sure as the A321 isn't accessible yet anyway, in a changing age where harmless to the ecosystem planes have turned out to be more the norm for both air terminals and urban communities. The same it makes that more alluring for aircrafts to change with the ongoing interest. We are seeing this with joint aircrafts. Yet in addition, with unfamiliar aircrafts like Indigo, who made a record-breaking request with Airbus at the new Paris Aviation Expo, requesting 500 airplanes from the A320 family, and incorporates 69 orders for the XLR presently. As far as size, the Boeing 757 does, in any case, edge in front of the A321 XLR anyway. Because of its somewhat smaller fuselage, the A321 XLR will accompany a somewhat bigger inside lodge width. This implies additional land for travelers, so they don't catch somebody while heading to the restroom. However, where the A321 XLR stands apart, obviously, is its reach. As we made sense of before, the XLR will actually want to accomplish the most elevated range ever on a center-of-the-market airplane, with an incredible 4,500 nautical miles. That is 600 more nautical miles than the 757-200 can fly, which can and fly up to 3,900 nautical miles. This reach, moreover, implies more productivity, as you can fly over longer distances without requiring a stop, for which carriers are very cheerful with you. See, other than the conspicuous fuel proficiency benefit a stream with more range has for aircrafts, it has another major practical advantage. Thanks to the expanded scope of the XLR, it opens up more well-known courses that are over 4,000 nautical miles, like Vancouver to Tokyo, or on the other hand, London to Seattle. This is the reason carriers are so amped up for the XLR, since it opens up a wide range of medium to long stretch courses. So with all of what could be accompanying the A321 XLR, and proficiently, this plane is intended for the average size market, one could can't help thinking about what Boeing has been doing to ensure they lose no more center of the piece of the pie. This is where it gets intriguing in light of the fact that Boeing did the entire part. Yet in addition, nothing at the equivalent Boeing time. As we as a whole know at this point, Boeing has not become, however huge as they may be, by collapsing their arms and sitting tight for the rivalry to get up to speed to them. The 757s could appear to be old now. However, they are still perhaps of the best airplane today, since they are quite solid anyway. In the flight industry, there is consistently a need to develop and improve. Assuming you need to contend, long-haul Boeing comprehends this like no other, which is the reason Boeing has made a few endeavors to connect the hole that is presently being made in the mid-range market via Airbus's new contributions, yet has neglected to do so. We discussed this more, top to bottom, in our other video. However, to give you the short story, Boeing had plans for another plane gotten back to the 797th of every 2015. Anyway, things didn't turn out well for them, and Boeing chosen to zero in on the 737 MAX, pointing for the maximum to be their response to the A321neo. Yet after a progression of repeating disappointments to the Moving Attributes Expansion Program, or MCAS, which prompted 2 deadly crashes somewhere in the range of 2017 and 2019. They were grounded from activity for north of a year, which endured into the coronavirus pandemic, prompting colossal misfortunes and a general absence of trust that waits right up till now. seeing the issues looked by their 737 MAX arrangement. Boeing needed to renew their unique Boeing 797 plan to be their mid-market reply to the A321 series. Yet there were a progression of issues for the 797 first. Of all the A321S single-path plans were ending up well known against the proposed two-fold-out style Boeing were going for. Then there was the proposed scope of 270 to 300 seats for the Boeing 797, which appeared like an awful choice, given Airbus comparable contributions were viewed as less famous among shoppers. These issues implied that the designs for the 797 were racked in 2020, simply a year after being on the verge was assumed of a declaration. Then the 797 arrangement hoped to be resuscitated in 2021. However, improvement was stopped again in 2022 because of inaccessibility of new motors after very nearly 10 years has passed since Boeing's most memorable declaration of a new moderate-sized plane. And in spite of all their various thoughts, ideas, and plans, Boeing is at last at a similar spot they were back in 2015. There, as a matter of fact, hasn't been a declaration of a new medium-sized plane, as Boeing has chosen to focus on enhancements to the 737 MAX series. The nearest to another medium-sized plane would then be the 737 MAX 10, of which we haven't heard a ton of recently. However, this asks the undeniable inquiry, can Boeing, as a matter of fact, bear to pause? Well, essentially put, no, Boeing has consistently been a forerunner in the flight business. In any case, they presently think of themselves as between a rock and a hard spot, and you can put this down to carelessness. You see, the avionics area, very much like any business, is where you can't overlook patterns, and surprisingly, the top folks at Boeing know that the A321 series from Airbus will rule the mid-market area if latest things proceed with. Then inside a hardly any years, their portion in the mid-market may just be a small part of what it at present is, and the latest things show a rising interest for mid-market planes. It appears to be that Boeing has essentially not done enough to stay aware of its opposition. Obviously, this is simple as far as we're concerned to say, yet at the point when we take a gander at every one of the information, we can make a reasonable end that Boeing moved its concentrate away from the fair-size market to zero in on their maximum and 777X series, which we can see anyway. You can't resist the urge to believe that it's a botched and open door, as the 757 is a cherished fly to quite a large number. Remove Delta aircrafts, for instance, from every one of the planes from Delta's armada. The 757 is the most often involved stream for Delta's overseas trips. Truth be told, Delta's new greatest income comes from an enormous piece of their overseas trips, of which the 757 is a central member, which is the reason they actually keep the fly, despite the fact that it has become obsolete. Yet indeed, even Delta got to see that, and may need to ponder a substitution, which Boeing doesn't have, essentially not at the season of this video. Airbus, on the other hand, they might have seen a chance for this, or Airbus may have recently been fortunate. Yet the reality stays that Airbus offers the average size market. What it right now needs a medium to long stretch plane that offers travelers solace while additionally being fuel productive. And that can be utilized for assortment of courses. This leaves aircrafts like Delta that are as yet utilizing the 757 with something of a problem as to whether to clutch their obsolete yet still utilitarian 757 or pick the fresher. Airbus model, this predicament appears to be the main thing purchasing Boeing, sometime as certain carriers keep on gauging the expenses of buying another plane against the expected reserve funds from the further developed eco-friendliness of another plane in any case. That there's no time left constantly, this keeps on continuing, then the A321, what's more specifically the XLR, could through and through overwhelm the fair-size market, one splendid spot for Boeing. In all of this is that they keep up with the lead in the area of freight cargo. However, this is because of Airbus zeroing in, erring on the human transportation experience for their mid-market airplanes. And there is no ensure that Boeing will keep up with their lead in that area for a really long time. With the ongoing direction, while it might in general appear to be like destruction and melancholy for Boeing down the mid-market street, their size and other market factors could imply that they can take a couple of something else years to deliver an ideal plan that gets together with all the market needs and guidelines. Do you think Boeing actually gets an opportunity to assume responsibility for the mid-market completely area? Or will they be supplanted by the fresher Airbus A321 models? In future, the industry moves quick, however, and they would have no desire to leave it past the point of no return. Any other way, they could pass up a major opportunity, completely sure they could need to take a secondary lounge to Airbus for years and years. However, on the off chance that anybody can make a rebound, it would be Boeing.